a lot of people, when they're making content or when they're building an offer, they make it way too complicated. They use fancy words, they explain it in a very detailed way, kind of like we've been taught in school. And because like when you think about back in school, right, you were making an essay. What was the requirement? You had to use a certain amount of words for basically, yeah, the essay. And the thing about this is like a lot of what I did, and probably you can resonate with this, is just using empty fill words. But basically you said in a 1,000 words essay that you could have said in like 100 words. And for sure, like on school this could work, but in real life, like in the real world, it doesn't work like that, because people will get bored easily. People have a very short attention span, so you need to get to the point like as fast as possible. So what you have to do is to simply simplify. Simplify is such a huge advantage that you can have. And everything what I do, I'm trying to make it more simpler, because what I used to do, I used to make like these presentation style videos. Those were my first couple of videos was in the presentation style, but it was pretty complicated for the viewer, but also for me, because I spoke about many different topics and I made a whole presentation for that. But it took me such a long time to make these. One video, it was about 15 minutes ID generation, then about 30 minutes making the outline, then 3 to 4 hours making the presentation, and then like 1.5 to 2 hours like filming it. So I was spending more than 6 hours on one single video. And now when I'm doing the whiteboard, yeah, like I have to do still the ID generation and the outline, but the filming, I do one takes only. So sometimes I make a lot of mistakes, for example, but I don't edit them, I don't cut out bloopers, and then I just make a thumbnail. I'm about 1.5 hours I am spending on this, like maybe 2 hours. So I am I can put out so much more content by simply just simplifying it. But not only that, also in my offer, because a lot of people, what they do when building an offer is they add new things to it, and they add, and they keep adding things until it's like a sea of like information. But when you give that to your clients, they get overwhelmed. And what you have to understand is you are not overwhelming them with value, you are simply overwhelming them. Like it is so I noticed this like a couple of times, right? Because I have had multiple different mentors and coaches. And one mentor, when I joined his community, there were like 19 courses in it, something like that. And I get really overwhelmed by everything. So yeah, I just consumed everything, but I didn't implement anything. So of course, I got some results out of it, but not nearly as good results as the second mentorship or the cohort where I started. And what they did is they simplified. They simplified it to the core basically. So the from the basically what they did, their delete button was their biggest friend. They kept deleting to because like if you look at it like this, like people have only so much time and energy, and if you are um, if you are spending all of the time and energy on like consuming some part of some kind of information, for example, then that takes away the time and energy they can to actually take action. And the action is the most important part. That is why my program, my offer is like 10% information based and 90% action based. And what they also did well is they didn't give all of the information at once. No, first they started with like the foundation, for example. Then they started step by step. Every week we would get a bit more information to take action on, and kept this kept me from getting overwhelmed. And for a lot of people, they noticed the same. So simplify, basically what it is the essence, or sorry, the to simplify things, that is the essence of quality. You have quantity, you have quality. And if you keep removing things until nothing more can be removed, um, but it is a thin line, because if you remove something and that removes also the impact, um, it removes something about the message, the core of the message, then you can't remove it, right? You can't just remove everything, because then you will have literally nothing. But if something can be removed without like the touching the, or without influencing the impact, then you have to do it. Less is more. Less is more. That is super, super important to understand. And yeah, so I've been like a writer for 2 years now. And when you are writing something like the copywriting, then you learn how to do this. But a lot of coaches, a lot of people who I speak to, they don't know necessarily how to do that. So when they explain something, they don't go straight to the point, they go on a lot of detours. But in writing, there was one rule that helped me the most, and that is this. Can I say this in less? Can I say this in less? So whenever you are writing, if you have 2 sentences, for example, and one of those sentences, those 2 sentences both mean the same thing, then one should be removed. The one with the least amount of impact, it should be removed. And this is difficult. This is really difficult, because when we are writing something, we are emotionally attached to whatever that we write, because we created it. It is like our baby, right? But a lot of writing, it has to be removed. So, and this, asking yourself this, can I say this in less? It hurts. It hurts because, like I said, you're emotionally attached to your writing, but it is absolutely necessary. So yeah, like basically what we are doing here is because what we are doing here is we want things to be clear. That is why it is also really important to not use a lot of difficult words. To be completely honest, I couldn't use the fancy words even if I tried, but explain all of it like you're explaining it to like a 10-year-old, because then you are really trying to simplify things. And once you learn how to simplify something, that means that you really know what you're talking about. Like, it isn't impressive to use a lot of words and to explain something in a lot of depth. No, it is very impressive to compress a really complex idea into a single sentence. Like, try to do that. That is why all of the quotes, all of the memorable quotes, it isn't like a whole paragraph. It is usually only one sentence, but that one sentence carries so much depth when you think about it. And that is basically what you have to do. Like, compress something to a single sentence without compromising on the impact that it brings. And the the this is a final thing that I want to mention about this. It is clarity over confusion, because clarity sells. When you have an offer, when something is clear, it sells. Confusion repels. If somebody doesn't understand what you are saying, then they stay stuck in a thought, in the thought pattern. They said, oh, what did he mean by that? And when you are doing something nuanced as sales, when you are or something like writing, when it is confusing to them, then they will never buy, because they will only buy if something makes sense, if your roadmap makes sense. And if you make a roadmap, if you make an offer, and that is like really complicated, and there is a lot of information inside of it, then sure, it might be good for you, but is it also good for the listener? Is it also clear to them? And I have kind of an unfair advantage when it comes to that, because I was a teacher before I went full-time as an educational creator. But in teaching, when you teach a lot, you have to you have to really think about how you deliver the message, because you basically need to level with the level of understanding of your students, right? And that is a difficult thing to do, but it's absolutely necessary, because if they are confused, they will never buy. If everything is clear and they know exactly what it contains, then they will buy. So yeah, bye.